The following presentation is brought to you live from Dallas, Texas, for the International Association of Square Dance Callers 26th Annual Convention. This is tape 16. Find 'em, Media Promotion.
Well, good morning. My name is Ed Juaire. I am not Mike Seastrom. Mike is sitting over here. My wife and I, Pat, publish American Square Dance magazine. For those of you who don't know us, we're new to American Square Dance, but we've been publishing another magazine for some 12 years now. And my background has been broadcasting from an engineering point, but also management, which got me into sales and marketing. So I have a little bit of background in the topic. And I think we're going to present some different ideas and try to elicit from you this morning things you've done that you found successful or not successful, and try to share it with all the folks back at home who will be listening to this tape. I'm from the great state of Rhode Island. We don't pronounce our R's or H's. We tend to say Rhode Island. And since I'm in Texas, let me say howdy. Mike?
Howdy. Howdy. How you doing, Ed? Listen, good morning, everybody. Everybody awake and ready to go? No. Well, if we are keeping you awake, let us know, okay? I think, and Ed and I have talked about this a little bit, that this session is really a sharing session, that we are just as interested in your information as we are in presenting a little bit of what we have, and we would invite you to share some of this information. We have handouts here in the front regarding, we have brochures and a couple different handouts that each of us have prepared, so you're welcome to come up here and pick up those handouts anytime. But like I say, I strongly believe that this is a session that we can share some information, and we're looking forward to hearing from you as well as presenting what we have, okay?
One thing that we all try to get is as much free publicity as we can. And if you try to deal with television or radio, one thing you have to be very, very careful in the word you never want to use in any correspondence to them is the word advertising. Advertising immediately triggers sales, immediately triggers moving it to the sales manager and getting somebody to work with you to spend money. Radio and television in many markets do offer public service announcements. Unfortunately, in major markets, you've got to have something really super going on, and conventions tend to qualify, or festivals tend to qualify to get them involved with you. But if you want to get television, radio involved, you have to have something to offer that will help them attract an audience to your function and also help them in terms of their overall ratings. So you have to look at what you want to try to do with these radio and television stations. One of the big things you can consider with TV, and we're not going to spend too much time on TV unless you've had some very positive experiences with it, is to find out if the local area TV station has something in the way of seminars, sure, hello Ed, has a telethon or some public involvement where they are looking for people to do demonstrations, or you could potentially do something in terms of a fundraiser which would elicit there, allowing you to get some free airtime. Jerry Lewis Telethon is a great example. You can work on that throughout the course of the year, raising money, and when it comes to the Labor Day weekend, you can get your dances on television, because the TV stations generally involved with that will do remote pickups, and you get some free airtime. And particularly if you tie it in with a mall, you can have dancing at a mall, and that comes at many areas at a great time of the year, Labor Day, just before a lot of places try to get the new dancers in. You can tie it in with a demonstration at a mall. You can tie it in with a fundraiser throughout the year. These are the types of things you have to look at with television, because most of us cannot afford a 10-second spot on television. It would deplete our budget in a moment. Now, radio is a little different. Here again, though, you have to find something that will interest them also to get involved with you. The other side of the coin is paid advertising on radio. Your dollars do go a little bit further, and in that respect, Mike, I think I'm going to let you pick up on that one because you got Veronica's information. There's been a very, very successful campaign on the West Coast. It's been going on 4 years, and Mike has got all the info on that, and I'll come back and share some other areas with you in a few minutes. If anytime you have any questions, please just, stick the hand up in the air, and you'll be recognized. Because we don't want to monopolize this. We also want your input.
Thank you, Ed. Again, I'm Mike Seastrom. I'm from Thousand Oaks, California, which is about 50 miles north of Los Angeles. We have a campaign going in our area, a radio advertising campaign that I'm sure some of you have heard about before. We're also have expanded that to other areas in the United States, so other areas are using what we call the Open Squares advertising campaign. But before I say anything more about the campaign, I should tell you, in my own personal opinion, I'm sure those of you that have been involved in any kind of advertising campaign feel the same way, that it is not the total answer to your recruitment. Let me repeat that again. It's not the total answer. That one-to-one contact is still critical, and if you put all your cards on the table and expect that you're going to do some media advertising and expect people to flock through your doors, you're sadly mistaken. But the one thing that this type of advertising does, the one thing that this exposure does, is to alert people to the fact that we're out here and that we're viable, and what's happening. If the advertisement or the message that you deliver is such that people get a different image or a different perception of our activity, then you've succeeded. If they get a feeling that, boy, these guys are organized, they're really happening, sounds like it's the thing to do, then you've succeeded in your message. It then makes it easier for your group or your dancers on a one-to-one basis to talk to these people and expose them to your particular program or invite them to your particular program. Now, this radio advertising campaign was started by an editor of a local square dance magazine in the Southern California area about 4 years ago. And what she did was to try to contact radio stations in the greater Los Angeles area. She was specifically looking for country western stations and talk radio shows, and started out by asking those stations. She was really pushing for some free advertising, but realized that we were in a tough situation to get free advertising. She even showed them some nonprofit IRS forms in just the attempt that maybe we could get in some way like that, but it still looked like we were going to have to do some paid advertising. So she developed some commercials with the help of some dancers in the area that had some of this experience, and proceeded to convince the clubs in the area through her magazine to try to raise funds. And in the one handout that I have, you'll see that some of the events that we use for raising funds. We used, of course, benefit dances, radio ad benefit dances. We used garage sales. Some of the clubs even had the money in their treasury and just donated money. There was a couple of styling workshops that we ran, and all the proceeds from those workshops, which were really surprisingly successful. It was terrific to advertise just a styling workshop or fun shop and have the hall just packed with people trying to just pick up something on information on styling, and all the proceeds from that went to the radio ad campaign. We also, there's a tie-in with Leah Veronica, who's the editor of Open Squares, with quilting and craft shows. She also has a quilting magazine, and she tied it together and did raffles with the quilts that were made by dancers in the area. Anyway, we raised about $1,800 that first year. She went out and she bought radio time about 2 weeks prior to the start of our classes, and proceeded to play these announcements. In the announcements themselves, she has a telephone number, a 1-800-FUN-FOR-ALL telephone number. Easy thing to remember. It's just fun and the letter 4, all. And she manned these telephones. And of course, sometimes the telephone calls came late at night or even early in the morning with some people calling. And she answered those telephone calls, of course, on an answering machine. But during the daytime, she made sure that there was somebody there all the time to answer this phone in person. And when somebody called, she asked their name, their address, where they heard the radio ad, and also if they'd ever been dancing before, a couple questions like this. Anyway, from this, she developed a list of names and addresses, and she would send out a packet to everybody. And some of the brochures in the packet I have down here, but it's basically a little packet on the upper left-hand corner. It says 1-800-FUN-FOR-ALL, has the address of Open Squares magazine, and it has a little figure on there, and down it says information on modern square dancing enclosed. And in this, she put a couple brochures, 2-color brochures. Some of these brochures are brochures that she actually made up on her own expense. She would show pictures in this one brochure. It shows pictures of dancers and other things that they do. And it says, do you know what these people have in common? And it's a real slick little brochure because it shows people in everyday life doing skiing. I'm in here. Yeah. She came into my office while I was working on a patient and shot some pictures. And also, you know, another fellow that his hobby is riding motorcycles, another gal where she's jumping horses, and people that are doing RVs and other types of activities. And anyway, she filmed these, or just took pictures and put them in a brochure. So that showing that square dancing is made up of participants that are involved in all walks of life. The other thing that's in this brochure is, or in this packet that she sends out to everybody, is a listing of all the square dance classes in that area. And it also has telephone contacts for each of those classes and what nights they're on and that kind of thing. It's arranged in a kind of a standard format. The other thing that's in that packet is a little notice that says, "Thank you for showing interest in modern square dancing. A square dancer in your area will be calling in a few days just to be sure that you've received an invitation and receive this information, and also to extend a personal information to you, your family, and your friends to join us in the fun of square dancing. 1-800-FUN-FOR-ALL. Also in that packet are 4 tickets or 4 coupons for a first night free. So if the person that they sent it to, for instance, wants to bring another couple, first night's free. All the clubs in the area have agreed to honor these coupons and let these people come in their first night free. And once these people receive the packet, then there is a single person in that area who is charged with contacting these people. The first year we made the mistake of mailing a master list out to all the clubs, and consequently each people, or all these people that phoned in, probably received anywhere from 8 to 10 telephone calls. And in her follow-up to some of these people, which she tried to do to say, did somebody contact you? And some of them said, yeah, I've been contacted 8 or 10 times. I didn't know I'd get this barrage of advertising, or a barrage of personal contact regarding this. So now what she does is just has a single person in charge of following up. Did you get the information? Did somebody contact you? Are you interested? And if you are, let me help you out. And anyway, it saves that barrage of phone calls that person would get, and makes the campaign a little bit more successful. Anyway, this started out, and she followed up with the clubs in the area to see how many people that actually came to the classes through the phone calls. And that first year, from about $1,800, we received just short of 500 phone calls. And the follow-ups to the classes in the area showed that all of the classes in the area had picked up maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 people from the radio advertising. But of those people, the one thing we didn't measure was how many of those people had actually heard the radio advertising, but had been kind of solicited by maybe a friend or a family member who was also involved in the activity. So we've tried to follow this up since that time and find that a good half of our recruits have heard these advertisements and have responded to this. And some of them have, although they maybe have not called the number, they have had personal contact at a later time and have come as a result of that. So a couple hits with the media really seems to make a big difference. Since that time, what Leah Veronica has done is to go around to specific areas in California, in Colorado, in Utah, in other areas west of the Mississippi. I think she's even out in Pennsylvania. But she's expanded that campaign in those areas, and basically what she asks people to do, if you're interested in having this campaign in your area, is to first of all complete a list in camera-ready form of all the classes in your area and send it to her. The other thing that she would like is the call letters to the radio stations in your area that are country stations and that are talk shows in your particular area. And also she asks you not to call those stations to tell you that she'll be calling them. The main reason is because she feels like it decreases her negotiating power when she does call them. The other thing that she wants is a copy of the club's or association's IRS nonprofit form. If she has a copy of that form, I guess it helps her in her negotiations and gets a different rate on the advertising. And basically she tries to encourage the dancers in the area, once this campaign starts, not to call the 1-800 number, just out of curiosity, because she would get a lot of calls from the dancers in the area, and of course it does cost her money for that 800 line, and to have to staff the people to answer those telephones, so it just increases the cost to open squares. Basically what she does is she takes the specific area, has a campaign to raise funds. Some of the areas have funds in their association already that are targeted for this. And the amount of advertising or the amount of radio ads depends upon the amount of money that comes from the specific area. But she'll call the stations in the area. She is an agent, so she can get a particular write-off. I guess she gets 15% off. And what she does is she puts 10% back into the advertising. She takes 5% for the cost of postage and for her phones and that kind of thing that just operates that. It's really not a profit venture at all for her. But at the same time, she has people that staff the phone. She knows when those advertisements are going out in the specific area. And so she is working with areas all over the country right now doing this radio advertising. She feels real strongly like it's not the total answer, and she says that right here in her packets and her information to you. But she once again says that this is just another way. It makes us look organized. It makes us look like we've got our act together. It makes us look like this is the thing to do. People are hearing this information on talk shows. They're hearing this information on other stations. She has some experience on the stations that seem to respond and the times that seem to respond the best, and so it's a good program. It's been a neat program in our area, and it just makes it easier for when our dancers go out to recruit. It makes them easier to get their message across and convince these people that square dancing today is a lot different from their impression of what it was years ago. And her brochures point that out, and or tries to dispel the perception that square dancing is something I did in the schools, that the music is squeaky, that the people are only old. Some of those misconceptions that people have about our activity, she works to dispel those and make it easier for us to contact people and get them to recruit people on a one-to-one basis. So, any questions about that particular campaign? Or how many have heard about this campaign before, I should ask? So most of you have. Okay. Good. Okay. Got some?
And we have a question coming up here.
Do you want to say your name?
Robert Hurst from England. You mentioned the first year you got to like 500 responses, and I know this has been an ongoing campaign. Do you know approximately how much they are spending on the campaign, and what is the return in the number of dancers?
The return per dollar of dance, or just the return?
No, how much are you spending on a campaign per year, and how many dancers you're getting in per year?
Because we do 2 campaigns a year in the Southern California area. We do one in September and one in January. And our September budget is bigger than our January budget because of the number of classes that start at those particular times. But our first year we did 1,800. We've done over 2,000 on 2 occasions, and our January one, some of them have been as low as $800. But the total return on them is, as I said before, we're looking at 3 to 5 to 6 to 8 people in various classes that have actually heard these ads. I would say probably 50% of those that have heard these ads have still been contacted on a personal basis. So the numbers that just come in from the ads alone is very low, probably less than 1%. But at the same time, many people have heard the ads. So we feel it's just another vehicle that lets people know we're here. Other comments?
Hold on a second, please. Can you get on? Did you have a question? No.
Question?
No. Okay. One of the things that I think you're going to hear an awful lot about over the next few years will be the image of square dancing. One of the things we have to do, and we can really be effective with radio and television, is to begin changing the perceived image. Recently I wrote something in a magazine about how square dancing, I think, was really held back in the 40s and 50s because you saw a lot of it in little snippets in movies. You had the B-westerns, you had a bunch of other areas, and fortunately with people like Bob Osgood helping out there was more interest, and there were people behind shooting scenes with square dancing. It's one of the things we've lost. Now we're seeing some square dancing in some of the advertising, but I don't think we particularly care to see it just in those particular commercials. So there's going to be a bit of an effort put underway, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mike, to get to the advertising agencies, some of the key agencies, and present to them square dancing and how it might be able to be used effectively in some commercials, but more where we will aid them in presenting how you should show square dances so that it is shown in a more modern style the way we're doing it today. So we can begin breaking down the image of people who just do it in barns and who are hopping and hip-hopping all over the place. This is all part of it. Question?
Yeah, John Kephart from San Antonio, Texas. Is there going to be possibly a way for CALLERLAB to set up as Lee Kopman did back in the early 80s, where he was on the Phil Donahue show, and he did a great spot for the whole hour theme about modern square dancing at that time. Is it possible that that could take place again, and has anyone thought about approaching that line?
Yeah, thanks for that question, John. That was one specific episode that happened that was just terrific for square dancing. We just kind of fell into that by accident, and the idea that we're considering hiring public relations people would be that we could take advantage of things like that and make those things happen, not necessarily by accident, but by design. That we could take certain events that happen in the media every day and turn them into events that would help us. One of the real just by accident things that occurred was a Dear Abby letter that many of you are probably aware of. But this Dear Abby letter that Dear Abby had said something about square dancing. An association officer in California wrote back to Dear Abby and said, "Thank you so much for pointing out the health benefits of square dancing and the social benefits of square dancing." And says, if anybody needs any information, dial 1-800-FUN-FOR-ALL. Well, of course, when that appeared, there was over 1,000 phone calls from all over the country within a week, just from that one little blip in Dear Abby. A lot of people read Dear Abby. So it would be nice to develop a public relations campaign that can pick up on some of these things. Very often there's a call for footage on square dancing, and you'll see somebody from your club out there filming it with his video camera, and it wouldn't be nice to have a company that had file footage of square dancing. Would you like to see? Like to see young kids in this? Like to see which age group? That we did this by more than accident. We did this by design. And that's one of the things that the board considered in this presentation that was given by Jim Hensley, is to consider making an effort to take a more proactive media stance and change our image, market, and take advantage of public relations opportunities that's just somehow slip us by.
If I could, I'm John Geen from San Angelo, by the way, and if I could, CALLERLAB has PSA tapes. They're wonderful tapes. We've used them on the PSA many times. You did mention just a few minutes ago about changing the image of square dancing, changing the perception of it. One of those tapes is excellent, except it's a 60-second commercial. You cannot get a television station to put on a 60-second PSA. They will not do it. And we can't afford 60-second PSA if we want to pay for them. The one I'm talking about, and you may be familiar with it, it talks about when it has gone from the barn, from the hayloft to the penthouse or whatever. Excellent. Excellent piece of footage, except could we ask CALLERLAB through this meeting somehow to rework that very piece of tape into a 30-second one so we can get some use out of it. Now, I did approach the TV station this year on doing it, and they said they'd be glad to do it for $800. No problem, we can handle it. Well, I didn't want to spend $800 because I'm just a little club out in the wilds of San Angelo, out in the Wild West there. I'm not too sure. It's absolutely no place. However, CALLERLAB could probably put a small investment in that and make it available to all. And by the way, I'd like to thank CALLERLAB for those tapes. They're excellent tapes.
Did they indicate, will they run a 30-second for you, or do they prefer a 10-second? Because TV and radio comes 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Most of them like 30s.
Our TV station does have a few 15-second ones, but they prefer 30-second ones. Now, they love you to come in and put in 60-second tapes. They love it because, that just doubles their income. But when it's PSA, no.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to at the beginning. Advertising and freebies are two big different things. And if you don't know about it, basically, radio and TV stations, you pay 80% of the 60-second rate. So they love to for 30-second commercials. So they love to sell 30-second commercials because they get a whole bunch more money for it. So that's just the nature of the beast. One thing in radio and TV advertising, whatever you do, be certain you have a place for those people to go. If you're going to do something for a convention or a festival and you want to attract new dancers in, and that's a term you're going to hear from me. New dancers, new dancer workshops. Myself, Bernie Colthurst, who writes for us, and Bernie has been in marketing. We really, really are working hard to get away from the word classes, lessons. The minute somebody comes in to a square dance hall, they're dancing the minute they get on the floor. So you'll hear that from us an awful lot, and you'll see that in our writing. One of the things you have to do for a festival or a convention, if you're going to invite people, you have to have something for them to do. So you have to target what you want them to do and have callers who are really good at getting new people up on the floor and dancing right away. So keep that in mind. If you're going to do something where you want to attract new people and you're looking for some free time for a convention or a festival, and you want to get the news department down to do a snippet, and speaking of news departments, you want to get to the news assignment editor, that's the person to reach at any TV station, the assignment editor. If you have a big function going on, they assign the news crews. Have something for them to see, to shoot, and then if you're going to get people in, you have to have a place for them to go and something to do. Question in the back of the room.
My name is Gary Potratz from Moscow, Idaho. Last year I decided to put a tape on the radio. I did a commercial, 60-second commercial. It cost $12 a slot, but they donated an additional slot for every one that I did. So I bought $140 worth of tape, our 60-second commercial, and we got 28 slots for that. They played it at a very good time, a couple of times, one before Paul Harvey, which is locally listened to there. The downside was it that I picked a 50-60 station to do it on. I didn't get a single phone call, but that doesn't mean that we didn't get results out of it, because I did hear back that a lot of people heard it. Locally, our association is now doing a campaign, but let me regress for just a second. Because we paid for advertisement, we couldn't apply to any other media for free advertisement, so that's a downside. If you, as a club, pay for advertisement, then you are locked in of not using free advertisement. You have to make a choice there, okay? Our association, though, is working out a radio commercial that's more generic than the one I had about lessons, and they are in the process of hitting all of the media stations. They are going to go ahead and pay for it, but the association is paying for it, so therefore the local clubs can go ahead and advertise free at on their own local station to get as much free advertisement as possible. I brought my tape. I didn't bring a tape recorder, so I apologize for that.
Thanks. If you do a radio commercial, the very first thing you have to remember is you need a real grabber for an opening. If you're going to use a piece of music, make it the best piece of music you can find in your record case, or borrow it from someone, or probably don't even use square dance music. And if you can, remember, you have to create an image on radio. Nobody's going to see what you're doing, so you have to build that radio spot so that they will see it in their mind. So you don't want to just do a lot of talking. You want to talk about the fun they're having, the dancing, what they're doing, the colorful outfits. It's one more avenue, but it's not the total answer to square dancing. There's no question about that. It's like we have to develop a film commission for square dancing, probably through the aegis of CALLERLAB, so that when somebody wants to do something in the country that has to do with square dancing, they'll have a place to go. Most major cities have film commissions or television, movie commissions, so that they work with the Hollywood studios. This is something else that we might want to consider trying to establish, which won't take an awful lot of time, but it'll become a repository where they can get the information. I think you touched on it very briefly. And that's very important. We don't have that right now. So here again, the concept of working with an advertising agency or several agencies through a marketing firm might help us. But these are only parts of the answer. We have to remember, this is a recreation. We enjoy it tremendously. You can't force a recreation on somebody else. There has to be some spark that will ignite in their mind that, hey, we want to try that. And all of these advertising mediums put together will eventually help. But you got to ask yourself the question, how many commercials do you see or PSAs do you hear for cat shows? A lot of people in the recreation with cats. We're fighting for everybody's free time. And we're looking to get those people to enjoy the hobby just like us. So when we try to get that information out there, we really have to impart our enthusiasm. So keep that in mind when you're preparing things. And along that line, I think unless you have any other questions, we do one up in front here. On. Thanks to Art Anthony, our remote mic handler.
Hi, Cliff Simpson, Palm Springs, California. We have I'd never heard of this before, but it's called an all-adult music radio station in the desert. And they play music from the 30s and 40s and some from the very early 50s. But every morning we have a 15-minute session that a lady comes on and she talks to somebody. She's talked to artists, to authors, to computer experts, to square dance callers. And basically what we do is I go in every summer now. I've done it for 2 years, and I'll be going back again this year. She basically interviews you over the radio. The first year we got one person out of it. This year we only got 2 people out of it. It hasn't cost me a dime, other than just gas to drive over. And she reads up on a lot of this stuff, so she's a very good interviewer. And it's something that is going to get better because their listening audience is growing. I would also like to say that we, out in Palm Springs desert area, we tried a program through the schools. One of our local callers went in and actually taught in the schools during the daytime. They sent home 8,000 flyers to all the students. Out of 8,000 flyers, we got not one come to a class, not a single one. So word of mouth is one-on-one is the best thing. But if you have a talk show in your area that interviews people, that might be a very good thing to look into. It at least got the word out. I go around now and they say, oh, you're the guy I heard on the radio. And the word is out there, but we just can't get the people out because of, again, as everybody says, our image. But that's one thing to look into if you do happen to have a talk show that has an interviewer.
Thanks very much. We still have the problem, obviously, of getting the husbands out. I know it took my wife years to get me out. They tried for 6 or 7 years. Then after that first night, I never let it go. Al?
Al Chalk, Eva, Hawaii. I just wanted to make a couple of comments when we were overseas in the Netherlands that about 60% of the square dancers that we had in the different clubs over there were former or current folk dancers. So that's one particular area you might want to try and reach people, are the dancers themselves that are doing some other form of dancing. With respect to TV, over a period of 2 years we were approached, and this happened to be 2 different clubs, by the Southern Dutch TV and the Northern Dutch TV. They wanted to do a sort of a Western American commentary, and so they shot these different clubs doing various types of dance, and coincidentally both TV stations selected the same dance, and what it was TAG, which is a Venus and Mars star, and they liked that because you had different couples, each couple clothed in one color, and having them go through the star. I just wanted to point that out as what you have to show is something that appeals to people or looks good.
Absolutely. Back here.
I'm Jerry Gilbert from Albuquerque, New Mexico. In our area, we have a situation where we do a lot of home schooling. Not saying anything about our local school system, but most people in Albuquerque do homeschooling. almost all of your homeschooling groups have their own written newsletter that they put out once a month for activities. Homeschoolers are all the time looking for wholesome, healthy activities that the family can do together. The problem you have with that is convincing your clubs that kids are nice to dance with. Try that sometime. It does work. We are right now putting ads in the homeschool directories. Also, we have a lot of gated communities and homeowners associations in the Albuquerque area. We've also have ads in their brochures and in their newsletters. We have picked up people from them also. Thank you.
Darren Tanberg from Yakima, Washington. We've had some clubs in our area that have gone to the local utility companies and stuffed envelopes. And it happens to be the cable company, and the clubs go there and they stuff the envelopes, and then they're allowed to put in a small flyer for the activity at no charge. Now, also what's come out of that is that now we're doing some paid advertising on TV. Now, one of the things is you have your local stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, and things like that. But what we found is that if you go to them, your advertising is pretty limited because you're only that one channel. But if you go to your local cable company, they sell advertising, and they will spread it across their entire cable access. So we have some that commercials that come on TNN or any channel, all the channels, rather than just one. So that was a great plus for us.
That's known as maximizing your dollars. There's no question about that, because the cable companies fill in the local time slots that are allotted to them. So it is a very effective way to have your message seen in a lot of areas. Fortunately, some of us still don't have cable, never will.
Otto Waterman from Houston. I was part of the panel in Vancouver. I produced about 40 TV shows in the Houston area for the Access Cable Network down there, and they were everything from a 30-minute talk show to a 1-hour presentation of our hoedown. Also used a remote truck with 5 cameras and shot a complete dance and had it on television. We had a lot of response from it, but I'm going to give you some ideas in some other areas. Number one, the biggest television event in the Houston area when it comes to general public is the March of Dimes. Tenneco, Southwestern Bell, everybody's wearing their t-shirts. We have yet to have square dancers out there walk the March of Dimes. If you took 1,000 square dancers from a city like Dallas, Texas, and got them all with their t-shirts and did the March of Dimes, you would have every major network station, every minor station videotaping them. And the March of Dimes in Houston there are about 50 or 60,000 people doing that march. And we don't do it. That's number one. There's an area. Another area is every major market has a PBS station. Every PBS station does their marathons, fundraisers, and they go to the people that are on their phone banks. Who's sitting there? Do you have square dancers up there with their t-shirts or their dresses? There's another area. We did billboards this year in Houston. It did not work. Okay, billboards, you're going to see them, but people on freeways are just going. They really don't watch the billboards that much. But there's a lot of areas you can work. This homeschooling, I never thought of that. I sent out a letter to 1,000 churches from my personal. Okay, I do one-nighters. Out of the 1,000 letters, I get absolutely zero response. So when you're talking about word of mouth, one minister tells another minister, call Otto Waterman. I do 30 one-nighters a year, and I have yet to sell one with a letter. So it's personal. But you've got to be out there in front of the people. The first week that we did the first television show, and it was a 1989 hoedown, we had 169 phone calls. And we had crawl, walk, run dance, and I'll explain that. I came up with an idea to have a beginner dance once a month for the whole district with only one caller, with only what they had learned in the previous 3 weeks. The first dance is the second week of October, the second dance the second week of November, the third. And I did it as a child. They learned to crawl, learned to walk, and learned to run. And we had 42 squares. No one can wear a badge, no club advertisements, and no square dance clothes. No commercials for any clubs. And then all the clubs send their dancers. And nothing is taught. And that's how you retain them, too. Because we had 42 squares of flat beginners. It worked great. But as soon as it goes out into the clubs, you've got all this hustling of your dancers away.
Thanks. The PBS stations, you stole my thunder, is a great place to get on because they're throughout the year. They don't do it just one time a year on fundraiser. Most of them do it throughout the year. So you can very easily schedule a slot in there with them. They're begging for people to come and answer those telephones. There are two schools of thoughts on the clothing. I go with you. I'd prefer that you be up there without square dance clothes. T-shirts, something that says "I love square dancing." You got to have it big enough so it can be seen because they take the shot is taken from some distance most of the time. They shoot like we'd be sitting up here. So you need something that can be seen. I love square dancing. So visually, there's always something there. Visual. That's a real big part of what we do here. And it's something that we have to keep in mind. And we're going to hit on these posters that are up on the wall here in just a moment. We have another question.
My name's Clay Goss. I'm from Newark, Delaware. And I have an idea that actually comes from a promotional effort that I've been doing with my own business, which has to do with direct mail, and I'm looking to adapt that and try and use that for square dancing. And I'm wondering if there's anybody else who has any experience with using direct mail.
Up in New England about, I think 3 years ago, through the New England Festival, there's an incentive left behind for an area association following that festival, the convention that is. And they did one of the 2 or 3 clubs got together in one area, and they did do a direct mailer. And unfortunately, it didn't really produce much of anything. Here again, not one item works. It is personal contact, tremendous amount of personal contact, getting your friends involved, and using the advertising sort of as a reinforcement. Or you take the flip of it, they'll see something, such as these posters, which I really want to get on. People will see this and ask questions. The concept on this came from the same square dance caller who designed the new song and dance routine, Sean Cuddy. Here again in New England, the callers, we have a nice situation up there with the 6 New England states, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. For those of you who don't know what the New England states are, we work together. We have a co-op. We have the dancers, the callers, and the cuers work in tandem on projects. We meet 4 times a year, and out of that, sometimes we resolve some things, sometimes we don't, but come new ideas. Now, last year, from the publicity money that we had, came Sean's concept of this particular poster, and you see one up front here. I brought a few along with me. Yes, you see them advertised in the magazine. We're selling them. We don't make a dime on the things. We're just handling them through the print cost and then for distribution. The concept on this is, particularly in a given area, if you have several clubs, each club buys them and gets them up into areas like pharmacies, markets, any place where you have a good number of people walking through. And it's visually attractive. Unfortunately, I can't describe it for the people listening to the tape. You'll have to take my word for it. Mike, do you want to back that one? Is it attractive?
Yeah, it's a very attractive flyer, and it has it has a Well, it has a couple that's dancing, as most of you can see, and the couple is wearing, I guess, generic attire is what I'd call it, and it's something that looks modern and up to date. It has a little thing on the side that says community. There's a little box that you can put club information in, and the bottom says fun, fitness, and fellowship. It's very attractive.
In town, they put posters up all over the place, and people see them and they'll react to it. Well, here, what we recommend, and there was some moderate success with it last year. It was the first time that it was used up there. Moderate to mild. In the square, you put your information about where the people can go for that first night, or 2 or 3 nights where you're going to have a fun night, whatever you might want to call it, to introduce people to square dancing. Now, what we recommend people was to go to a quick print location. You make up your information, and you get it made up on pads. You stick the pad on here so when somebody walks up to this, they can then rip off that piece of paper, because it's very, very important that they have something to take home, or they will not remember the date and the time or who to contact. If it ends up that you put this in a window, or you put one paper up in the front and you put the pad on the back so that they can grab it. If you have 2, 3 clubs in an area, or just one club, the more you can get up, the merrier. Because again, it's visual, it's reinforcement and promotion. If you happen to have somebody there, at the time somebody's looking at this, they can discuss what's going on. Then here again, you get them to your fun night, your introduction night to square dancing. It's just another vehicle.
Question on the flyer, it says Tuesdays. What about the clubs that dance on the other 6 nights or have lessons?
We have 5 different nights. We do not have Friday and Saturday at this point. When we did our research, we found very, very little interest in doing it for Friday or Saturday night, but we're thinking of doing Friday and Saturday night.
So you can order the flyer that says Wednesday or whatever night you want?
That's correct. We have Saturday, we have September and October.
Thank you.
At this point. It was done on a trial basis. I think it cost us, about $3,000? Do you remember? I forget the number.
You're
somewhere
right
in that
just
range.
About that, Ed.
Yeah. To put these together. But here again, it was backed by the New England Co-op. And we handle it for the New England Co-op up in New England. And we put some into ASD last year, a little late. This year we started earlier. And we're hopeful, it's just another vehicle. I think, Bob, you had something like that years ago. You had a poster that was available. But no one thing is the answer. I can't impress that upon you enough. But one thing when you do design flyers, which we'll touch in a moment, is newer technologies and things you can use to make them visually attractive. Question?
Yes, Bob McVeigh, San Antonio. I just have a question on who pays for the advertising. Is this your Callers Association or your dancers or a joint effort?
Back in New England, it's essentially a joint effort. Funds come from the festival, and there's $1 per person put aside, and that is then available to the area association that sponsored the convention for the particular year, and they can use the money as they see fit. A couple of them have felt that the New England Co-op would probably do a little bit better job, so they turned their money back to the New England Co-op, and that was part of the funds that were used to print this. So we're trying all sorts of things up there. There has been nothing, honestly, there's been nothing that's been successful in terms of getting tons and tons of people in. Last year, there was a big push with a local radio station, the Country Western station, the leading station, the only station in the city of Boston. And it was a tie-in with our New England convention. There was a giveaway involved with it. I do think they did a remote pickup. Seemed like things were going real great, and unfortunately, I think 5 people showed up. It was very, very disappointing. So we don't know what button to hit yet. We keep pressing them. Someday maybe we'll find the right button. But again, it all hinges, I personally feel, on the image of square dancing. We have to present it in a different type of light, and we have to show that it's really fun for the gentleman. Most guys are the big problems out there. And kids. Somebody mentioned kids earlier. Oh, that's a big factor. But we can't force them into it. There's a lot of things happening with kids. We're really happy. We hitched up with a fellow from Georgia, Bob and Laurie Morrison. They're doing an awful lot with the kids down there. And if we do nothing other than give them a pleasant experience, this is building for the future. It's not so much that they're going to get into square dancing today and then become avid square dancers 4 or 5 years down the road. They may not remember it for another 20 to 30 years from now. But if we can leave them with the pleasant experiences versus those that a lot of us had, which were negative, we had square dancing forced upon us in gym by somebody who didn't know left from right. And it left a negative connotation, and that still unfortunately happens in a lot of schools today. So there's two different things under the media promotion. Something is going on for today to try to get an immediate result, and for the long-term process. Question?
Jerry Gilbert again from Albuquerque. On that note about the kids learning in high school, we just finished a Callers Run clinic where we took 6 people out of the Albuquerque, New Mexico area and gave them an introduction into becoming callers. One of them is a gym teacher at a local junior high who has been doing square dancing, the normal stuff that you would get in class or you would get in high school, for the last 4 years. This year she has applied what we taught her in class, teaching her to be a caller, to her activity. And now the kids are coming into her class saying, it's not raining today, but can we stay inside and square dance anyway? Because she has learned the correct way to teach them how to square dance. And I am one that's a big advocate of teaching kids and bringing the kids back into the program. That's why I'm hitting on this homeschooling thing so hard in Albuquerque, and it is working.
That's a great idea. That combined with the homeschooling thing. The other thing is that many of us have contacts or kids, grandkids, or whatever that are in the 5th and 6th grade, and a lot of them are exposed to dancing. And as many of you know, the dances, most of the records that are in the schools these days are they were recorded back in the early 50s. And from the kids' sound and people listening today, that's a very old sound to them, and it's nice when some of us can volunteer to go in those schools and give those kids a positive experience about dancing. And there's information out on how to do that successfully, because it's particularly important that they get a good exposure to it. But this is right at a critical time when kids are learning social skills. Boys are learning to talk to girls and vice versa, and they're curious about one another. And what a better activity to teach and to introduce social skills to kids than square dancing. It's a team effort. Kids are constantly moving around and changing partners, and it is a great time to do just that. So if someone in your area is kind of a specialist in that, whatever you can do to help them, terrific. If they can give a seminar to your Callers Association about how they go about doing it, you can share that information. More and more of the callers in your association can go out and do that and make those positive experiences. A lot of times you can recruit their parents through programs like that. So don't discount that particular type of activity.
And here again, somebody will say, well, what's that got to do with media promotion? Well, it's all part of it. Because when those functions are done, with the information literature that is available, those pieces of literature can be left behind. Kids will bring it home. And it leads to another aspect, and I'll touch on this one because this is dear to my heart. My wife does it an awful lot. That's father-daughter dances. She was contacted a few years ago to do a Girl Scout function because they had traditional problems of father-daughter dances. Dad sits on the left, the daughter sits on the right, and they never get up on the floor. So square dancing had been done 1 year, and the second year they wanted to try it again, and they contacted her. Well, that little one-night function, she just celebrated 10 years doing it for this Girl Scout troop, and it's led to many other Girl Scout troops. And each year when she does this particular function, we average somewhere between 300 and 350 dads or granddads and daughters there. They really have a ball. And what's happened, the Girl Scout troops in the area have found it beneficial to have more of these because the guys are enjoying it and they will support another troop. So they're getting this feeling, they're getting this flair for it. They come out, and again it's going to leave the daughters with a positive impression in the future. So the kids are having a great time. It isn't just square dancing, but it's a good chunk of it because Pat gets them up and they're square dancing right off the bat. Some school of thoughts are, don't square dance. She square dances with them right away. Otto. Bob.
I'm going to give you a. What's the number one retailer growing in the United States right now? No, Home Depot. What is? I'm with Home Depot, and I'm going to tell you something about Home Depot.
Is that a commercial plug?
That's a commercial plug. The first Saturday of every month at high noon, Boy Scout troops, Cub Scout troops are invited to Home Depot to do carpentry work. And they have the kits, they have everything for the kids to work, they have the cars, they got the birdhouses, they got everything. And they end up with aprons. Home Depot knows that the family is going to spend $70,000 in their store or in home improvements in their lifetime, and they're going to get it. And that's the reason they've grown. And they're going to get it by bringing those kids in the first Saturday of every month. And they're lined up in front of the stores. And we need to be doing something like that. We need to be out there going after the kids, because that's where it's at. And we need to follow what some of the major companies are doing. Mike and I were talking yesterday when they were talking about the bowling centers. I have a brother-in-law that's a retired professional bowler, Hall of Famer. He has a bowling center that he spent $150,000 in to put new sound equipment, laser lights, smoke machines, 40 lanes wide, and at 10 o'clock on Friday night, the lights go out and the laser lights come on, and the lanes are rented at $40 an hour, and they're lined up to come in, and they're all young people. I mean, he's making money hand over fist.
We have one more piece that we do want to touch on. I think I mentioned I have this advanced column by Bernie Coulter's for if you're going to design flyers or any of the media that you want to touch on. Bernie's got some great ideas. Don't forget, pick up one of these when you do leave. He touches on the real do's and don'ts, and Bernie was very involved with marketing. Let's go to the one big topic we haven't touched yet. We've got about 15 minutes left in this session. That's the most common item available today to us that I don't think we're using very effectively, the Internet. That is today's hot button in terms of communication. And somehow, and those of you who read my editorial, I think it was last month or this month, I keep getting mixed up in which months. Somehow, again, square dancing has to become unified. A lot of different people have their own home page, but it's so difficult to find us. It's very, very difficult to find us. We're going to work to try to put together an easier way through the search engines to locate square dancing. There's a couple of good words out there we'd like to get together with the companies that currently are using them and see if we can buy them back and find an easy way to start and really try to build this as a pyramid, have probably 2 or 3 key sites from which links to the rest of the world could be developed. American Square Dance, Northeast Square Dancer, has had a site now for some 3 years, and we offer from our site, anybody can sign on and leave a link behind. Well, our site is managed by somebody else. It keeps me out of it because we don't have the time, but we do make it available free of charge. You fill out a form that's on the site, and you get listed alphabetically under various listings. We have clubs, callers, cures, and you can be listed in multiple locations. Unfortunately, with the Internet, some of the URLs, which are the addresses to get to for those of people who don't know about how it works, are so long and so convoluted you can't even begin to remember them. Our own site, maybe I was out in left field when John picked this name. I didn't say we shouldn't. We used Docido, D-O-C-I-D-O. We thought it was cute, but unfortunately I think we found it was too cute. Because here again, the average person doesn't know how to spell it, and that's the big problem. So that's why we're looking for another URL to use to get to our site. But here again, we should begin linking as many of these sites together as we possibly can and get to key locations. CALLERLAB is on. They're on our site. We have a link to them. We want to make it as easy for the general public when somebody feels they have an interest in square dancing bingo, they can find an avenue to get to that. How many people here are involved with websites or have home pages? That's about half the people have their hands up. That's real good. But the other thing you really have to remember, here again, that site has to be kept up to date. If you have specific information on that site, don't let it become too old. Because as you get different hits, if they don't see something different, they may not stay there. Our own site, obviously, with the magazine, is every month the home page changes on both of them. And it gives people come back, they'll see something different. We have some people that visit us almost every day. I don't know exactly why. We haven't tracked just where they're going. And I hope you realize that you can be tracked when people come into your website, so you know who's coming in and how often. But we've been running better than 200 and 250 hits a day since we've built this. We're real pleased with what it's doing, what it's leading to, how it's helping the square dancing. We don't know because we don't have a way to track that part of it. We do know we send out an awful lot of free magazines every month because we offer free samples via the website, and we can always tell when somebody does become a subscriber. And we're getting about a 5% return on that, which is not bad. Here again, it's like direct mailing. If you can get 2 to 3%, most people feel that's a good return. So at 5%, we're really thrilled with that. But that's the area where you can really make an impact. And of course, now with real audio, you can put your music on there because more and more computers have sound cards. You can't buy one today, a new one, without it. So if you look at it from that aspect and you have a little music on there, in personal opinion, again, that music should be very, very contemporary sounding. Would you agree on that, Mike? It has to be contemporary sounding because the people that are doing the surfing, in many, many cases, are kids. And if they see something and hear something they like, bingo, they're going to stay there. They're going to do some looking, and Mom or Dad will probably say, what do you got there? And hopefully they'll do a little looking. And the reverse side, too, obviously, is the adults begin looking. They want to find something for entertainment. Here again, square dancing. So we work very aggressively to try to keep the name of the magazine near the top in the search engines, and it's almost a weekly job John has to do to keep us up there because you get bumped down if you don't keep pushing yourself back to the top. I can't suggest it too highly. Get involved with it. Use it. Make the information available as to where the clubs are dancing for the new dancers to come in and try out. It isn't so much for the people who are in. You got to think of this as you want to attract new people. You're not really interested in putting up the information on there just for the existing dancers, unless that's the way you want to disseminate your information. But if you want to get new people, consider what you would like to see when you go into the new car market. What do you want to see when you're looking for a car? What's the first thing? You want something that's going to jump out at you. Design your website in that fashion. Put a little animation into it, put a little music into it, and it's going to be a grabber. Mike, you have anything on that?
No, I agree with you, Ed. I think it's just another form of media that we need to establish a presence on. So I think it behooves you to look into that. If you have somebody even in your square dance club that can put up a web page for your club. I know the club that I teach class for has a web page that's pretty extensive, tells about their membership, some of the activities they do. They have one section of it that just tells about all their class and where their class is and a lot of different information. It has some neat little figures on it, and it shows their faces before they learn to dance and then shows their faces after they dance, and it's all smiley and happy. And it's just another presence and another way that we can expose ourselves and get ourselves out there.
Yes, I'm Jack Vonderheide from Arlington, Texas. Our local Callers Association, one of the fellows enjoys doing websites, and you just mentioned this media stuff. It turns out that he brought his camera and his sound to our local Callers Cavalcade and has now put that up on our website. We have an NTCA, North Texas Callers Association website, and it's at www.squaredancing.com. which is something that you can remember. And I'd like a critique, if you will, from y'all. If you go to that website, you can weave your way through it and get to our North Texas Callers Association and get to the picture and the and the sound that goes with it. So they have some round dance cuers, they have some square dance callers, and that sound is there, and then the pictures keep changing as they go through that thing. So he's done a pretty good job on that, but it's a new thing and to get at. But I just like to, nothing clicked until you said something about the internet, but they've tried it, and I'd like somebody to go to it and take a look at it and see what you see, see what you think.
Very good, very good. Bob?
Bob Pointer, Florida. We have our Callers Association in Florida. Tom Perry is one of our members, and Tom does a very beautiful website for us. It's called FloridaDancing.com. And you can go there, and it will give the Dancers Association, the cuers, and the callers. And it all gives all the officers. It also has a spot where you just click on it for email. If you want information about callers in certain areas, it is a map of Florida, and it's broken up into all of our associations, separate associations. And you can click on whichever one you're going into, and it will give you a list of all the callers in that area. So it's a very nice website. You ought to try it. Let us know what you think of our website. What is it again? It's FloridaDancing.com, all small letters. For what has happened is we've had a lot of snowbirds come down, and once they found that we have a website, they know the area they're going into, so they can prepare ahead of time and know pretty much what they want to schedule, and it works out pretty nice for them.
Very good. I just think it's another form of media that we need to really look into and stay on top of, because things are rapidly changing, and we're going to see some benefits to it that if we establish our presence now, I think it'll make a big difference in the future. Many of you heard the presentation by Jim Hensley at the opening session, and he did give a presentation to the Board of Governors. We have for a long time been considering something that would be a much longer range marketing plan that square dancing could adopt. But one of the things that Jim had said to me right after that presentation that he really wished that he had mentioned, because it was a very important part of that, was that square dancing and its organizations need to unite to make a project like this work. It is not an inexpensive project when you start to hire professionals to do your work. But so much of what we've done up to now has been fragmented. This area of the United States or the world is doing this, and this area is doing that. And as even Ed pointed out, we need to work together to make things happen. And one of the ideas, of course, with this new National Council of Square Dance Associations is a possibility of being able to unite the national organizations and in turn get down to the regional associations and organizations so that we can adapt a fundraising policy. And as another gentleman just had said here, they take $1 out of their particular dance and they put it into a fund. I think you were mentioning that, Ed. One of the proposals out that we're looking at, or one of the suggestions we're looking at, is to take $1, raise the registration for every state and national convention by $1 per person. Take that and put that in the CALLERLAB Foundation or in the foundation and market it for advertising. And be able to start out with a long-range plan that initially involves determining what our image problem is out there. Why is square dancing perceived negatively by some? What are the hurdles of people just walking in the front door? If we can get beyond those hurdles and be able to target our advertising in a specific way and kind of use an altered image in our advertising that would switch over from that negative image, and make it a positive situation, we'd have a much better chance to have more effective advertising. Also, that we need that public relations, those opportunities. We need to take advantage of those on a national and international basis out there so we can make our activity we make our advertisement more effective. Our advertising dollars would go a longer way, and there's many opportunities out there that don't cost a dime. But we just don't take advantage of them because we don't have the right people that are in the right places at the right time. And I think that's one of the critical things that's got to happen, that we need to take a more professional approach.
Otto again. I talk a lot. The one thing you want to remember is that it's not the dance that's old. The dance has not gone out of style. The hottest dance going in the country right now amongst the young people is the Lindy from the 1920s, the swing. And so it's not the dance that's old, it's how we're presenting it.
One more. We have time for one more question down front here.
Elmer Claycomb from Prescott Valley, Arizona. This year, because of losing a hall that we had that was just an excellent facility, I had to go looking for a different media to get a hall, and brought me into working with the local Parks and Rec directory, or Parks and Rec department and their director. And as I started working for them, a number of things occurred to me. Number one is I'm paying their salary already. Number two, when I sit down and look at what they're doing, the Parks and Rec director is trying to show his boss, the city manager, the town council, how many people he has in his program. How many activities does he have going on? And I walked in and I presented him a ready-built program. All he had to do was find a hall for me. And once I got started, then he says, well, geez, I can send out all your mailers. You know, I'll do this, I'll do that. And the thing that I need some direction is I'm in totally new water. I've never worked with a Parks and Rec department before. It was always, you know, the club might have been doing it, but now I'm dealing with one-on-one as, in a way, a professional working with another professional. And, you know, I think maybe if I do a little, if I handle it right, there's a tremendous leverage there that maybe we're not using those people that we pay for, and they're professionals. They have, you know, all kinds of things that we could build on if we knew how to do it. So maybe what we need to do is have some information available to the callers, to the clubs, is how do you work with that Parks and Rec department effectively.
Good point. Real good point. Well, we hope everybody's enjoyed this session. This is the first time for this one, as I can remember, right? And if you have any points we didn't cover, I'm going to be up in the vendors area with Pat. Mike will be around. Stop by, take a look, talk to us. We're here till noontime tomorrow. And if there's any other things you think CALLERLAB could cover in the future, let us know. Do your critique sheet and let the front office know. Mike?
I think we ought to thank Ed and Pat for their preparation and putting this panel together, and let's give them a nice round of applause. Very nice. I want to thank you guys for coming out early. And I know it's quite early this morning, and probably was earlier this morning than it was yesterday at the same time. But anyway, thank you guys for coming out. Enjoy the rest of the convention, and share information. Thank you very much.